because what goes on underground is going to manifest on top of the ground. So, there's been headlines going out now where I've seen some headlines where the military has actually been training to fight underground, which tells you that they're going to start going after some of these people. So we need to be repenting for what's going on under the ground, which we have people that are doing that, but I encourage people to get involved in some of this stuff. But again, this is all part of spiritual warfare, and now's the time to engage.
That's right. Now is the time to engage, Mark, because these people are demons. Do you folks understand this? I mean, Mark, look at this disgusting thing that happened with this Joel Davis, who was arrested. Remember, he worked for the Hillary Clinton campaign. I actually read the multi-count indictment, and I was actually sick to my stomach. It's rough. This stuff is straight out of the pit of hell. These people are demons. And this is what we're dealing with here, Mark. I mean, these people are so sick and disgusting that we can't even speak of these things because they're so awful. And this guy worked with Hillary Clinton, the same Hillary Clinton that was taking trips on the Lita Island Express with her sick pervert husband. And don't even get me started on a videotape circling around the dark web involving children. And need I say more?
Yeah, absolutely. I keep hearing over and over again from the Lord here recently. I keep hearing him say, "Save my children, save my little ones." It's the corruption that's being exposed. It's the pedophilia that's being exposed. It's the child sex trafficking. All this stuff's being exposed right now, and a lot of people don't want to hear about it. Well, I got news for you. You need to hear about it. You need to be in touch with what's going on. I'm not trying to be doom and gloom here. Again, we talked about that balance before on your show, where you've got to balance things out. Yeah. But you have to know how to pray. You have to know how to engage the enemy. You got to know your enemy's tactics in order to defeat him. So you've got to know some of the stuff that's going on. So again, it's the spiritual warfare side. We've got to get involved. We've got to get on the front lines. So I think July and August, like you were talking about, it's going to be some hot months over some stuff that's going to be exposed. We'll see what comes about. We'll see what God's got in store. But the midterms, this is where I want to go into the midterms a little bit here, because this is leading into this, is that the midterms is extremely important, especially for the president right now. Now, there's a lot of voter fraud going on. We've been saying time and time again, be faithful in praying that the voter fraud gets exposed, because what the Lord has been showing me all along is that we don't have as many blue states and zones as we think we have. These people that have been in Congress for 30 years, 20 and 30 years, watch out, because these guys have not been winning their elections. They've been paid. Follow the money. Chances are George Soros is behind them. They've been paying George Soros. He fixes the machines. Next thing you know, they're winning the election over and over and over again. John McCain did not win that last election as far as I'm concerned. He's bought and paid for. Everybody knows it. These people like Nancy Pelosi, all these people are not in Congress for 30 years for nothing, guys. So, I mean, we have to be praying. If you can, ask for a paper ballot, period. Yeah. We talked about that before on your show, where Larry Nichols and his team had 4 states that Jill Stein called for a recount in 4 states, and nobody could figure out why she called for it. It's because Larry Nichols and his team, spiritual team, went after those 4 states because they had found that Hillary Clinton had already had them locked up for her. Literally. Yeah. It was already locked. And so they went after those states and did a blitz campaign telling people to vote by paper ballot. They did so. Those 4 states, she didn't even visit those states, by the way, as far as I know. Didn't even visit them. So those 4 states swung for Trump, and it blew them away. They couldn't figure out what happened. It was because Larry Nichols and his team went in there and told them vote by paper ballot. They beat the machines. So this is why we've got to come up with a voting system that's unhackable, that has a lot more credibility behind it. So, if you can, ask for a paper ballot. But be praying for the midterms. It is very important that the evangelicals get people out to vote, period.
Interesting. Also, I want to switch gears a little bit. Now, Q has dropped some really interesting information this week. It looks like Q is really laying the hammer down on these devils. It looks like Q is going after the deep state subversives, the Freemasons. There's a really interesting 13-minute video called Q, The Plan to Save the World. It's very good if you haven't seen it. But I thought it was really interesting, all the drops from Q this week. Very interesting timing, isn't it?
Absolutely. He's going after the Freemasons, and I think if I was correct in what I was reading about some of that stuff, the president went to Minnesota for one of his rallies here. What was it, last week? I think it was.
Yeah.
And when he was up there, they said that the president had changed tactics and said, we're now going into the attack mode. What does that tell you? That tells you we, as evangelicals, need to switch tactics and go into the attack mode at this point. So again, you can't do it by not getting involved in something. You can't, you know what I mean? You got to get involved. So I encourage people, this is time to get into the attack mode, and it's time to start taking ground, because there's going to be a lot of hot issues, just like immigration is. We've got the shootings. You could see some more shootings possibly, because, again, the deep state's kicking and screaming. These people who are under the mind control that they have had going on, they're going to start activating these sleepers that I call them. And you saw what happened in Annapolis. This guy was a sleeper. They activated him, and that was it. So this is going to be a time where, we're going to have to be prayerful and careful. Maxine Waters is calling for violence. The left is calling for violence. Someone told me yesterday that blonde women now, they're going to start targeting blonde women because they think they're Trump supporters. Regardless of whether they are or not, they just said attack them. So you have to be careful, but you've got to be prayerful and careful. And that's the other thing, too, is I honestly believe, because it gets frustrating seeing this stuff. And again, you have to realize it's not people that's doing this. The journalists, those were demons that were manifesting. Yeah. Maxine Waters, these are demons that are manifesting, guys. Again, we have our weapons of warfare, and we need to start wielding those weapons. But again, the Secret Service and Homeland Security, at some point, they are going to act. There is a plan in place. I honestly believe that. And you're going to see all these people picked up probably all at one shot. But at some point, you're going to see it. But we just have to be patient until that happens. Because if you jump too quick, and they're not prepared because they're still cleaning the FBI and the DOJ out right now. Yeah. We don't want these people walking on a technicality, man. I would rather wait a little bit longer and make sure these people never see the light of day again and let them sweat it out at Gitmo than to have them walk on a technicality.
Yeah, well, and this goes back to the FBI and the DOJ. I mean, think about this for a sec. They're in serious legal trouble, top people. We're talking about the State Department, the White House, both under Hillary Clinton, John Kerry. Many, as you said, are going to be indicted in the months to come. The first four will probably include fired FBI and assistant FBI directors, Comey, McCabe, Lisa Page, Peter Strzok. Look at all the attention the MSN is putting on the phony issue, though, Mark, of children being separated from the parents at the border. Is that just a diversion and a smokescreen for the story they did not want to cover? And that was this bombshell IG report that came out. I mean, we're talking top people in the FBI and the DOJ. They're in some serious trouble. And then look at all the other things that are signaling a lot of trouble. Deutsche Bank, for example. Are we looking at a financial meltdown like Lehman Brothers in 2008? Look at the reactor rods going off on all levels, politically, economically, financially, the whole immigration thing. I mean, all the reactor rods are kind of going off at once here.
Yeah, and the immigration thing, I want to touch on that for a second. Again, they're worried about the kids, but yet they don't want to protect the kids in the womb. So again, the hypocrisy knows no bounds. But, the immigration thing is, to me, is something that's they're trying to pull away from the IG report. They're trying to pull away from everything that the president has done to this point in his year and a half in office, all the good he has done. They're just trying to point out the bad. They're diverting attention. But, even evangelicals out there right now have a problem with the immigration thing. And I don't understand it, because without borders, you do not have a country. Borders are all throughout the Bible. There are walls throughout the Bible. So let me help the evangelicals here a little bit. I've said this time and time again. I'll say it again. Heaven's got a gate, and it takes extreme vetting to get into heaven. So what is the problem? The president came out today and tweeted something about that. Heaven's got a wall. So it's like, what part of this do they not understand? It has to be done. We have too many security issues that are going on in America right now, and God is going to protect America at all costs. I'm not saying there's not going to be some issues along the way, like some of these shootings that are going on, but he is cleaning out and purging out all the corruption, all the way down to the street level. So this has to happen.
Folks, what Mark just said cannot be underscored. God is cleaning house in the MSN, in the political world, the deep state subversive, these demons, the evangelifish, the CEO pastors. God's cleaning house on all levels. You know what? America's open for business. That's true. Trump is doing a lot for the economy, but who is doing something on a spiritual front for people across the nations? This is why Mark and I are like John the Baptist out here crying in the wilderness, because, and you'll find this interesting, Mark, I sent 100 people. This is 100 separate people. I gave them one task. to go into a local church, a Pentecostal, some type of evangelical church or a Pentecostal church. Now, I asked them to go for 1 month to a church or to their church, any church, and just check out if the word, I was looking for 3 key words, get this, spiritual warfare, prayer. You know that whole scripture, the effective fervent prayer of a righteous man availeth much? So it was spiritual warfare, the word warfare at all, or just prayer. Any combination of those words. And big shock, not one time did they mention that. That's over the course of 4 or 5 Sundays in one whole solid month, 100 different churches. That's a pretty good sampling. There's something wrong with this picture, folks. That's why I'm asking you this week, you know what? Round up some people and start having a home group in your house once a week. And you guys are going to make the difference. Praying. Start repenting. Form a prayer group. How hard can that be? All you can do is do your part. God will do the part that you can't. Get this done, folks. This is really important for us to all have prayer groups, prayer calls, weekly prayer calls. This is so important. You know what? Newsflash. They're not talking about spiritual warfare in your church. Oh, and if they are talking about it in your church, I want the name of your church. Why? Because I'm going to be giving it out. Tell me which church, which city. I'm making a list of really solid, good churches. That's a project I have in the future, to get a list of all the really good churches across Canada and the United States. But I mean, Mark, it's bad enough that we have the mind control going on with the mainstream news media. But what's equally troubling is the mind control and the lies perpetrated in our own churches.
Right. And again, stay away from the mainstream media. It's not worth the mind control stuff that's going on. Get onto the president's Twitter feed, his Facebook page, get the truth straight from the source. The mind control that's going on with the mainstream media right now is just unbelievable right now at this point. And, they're just drawing people in to their way of thinking, their perception, the way they want you to think and perceive. And it's really messing a lot of people up right now. And again, that's Satan's frequency. You want to tap into heaven's frequency. But just stay off of mainstream media. There's certain sources that you can go to listen to that you can trust. But other than that, stay away from it.